dreams ever really come true. When up jumped springtime, and I got a look at you. All at once it was heady, a gaze strong and steady, made sounds of the patter grow dim, and up jumped springtime. Love came on in. Now my heart wants to cheer. Love's sweet promise is near, and love is a lovely thing. And we're friends together like bird and a feather. Our love is as free as the wind. And up jumped springtime. So hello, my friend. Now my heart wants to cheer. Love's sweet promise is near, and love is a lovely thing. And we're sweethearts together like bird and a feather. Our love is as free as the wind. 'Cause of John springtime. Hello, my friend. Up jump springtime. So hello, 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 my friend. Hello.
It is not by chance that you have arrived here. You have been searching for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there's a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilling a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you began to seek beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to the possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. Those words are from the poem A Place of Belonging and Caring by the Reverend Kimberly Tomachek Carlson. And what a beautiful and stirring call to worship, an invitation to worship it is for us this morning. Welcome home, welcome to worship, and welcome to Fountain Street Church. I am the Reverend Christopher Rowe. I use he, him pronouns, and I have the pleasure of serving as the acting senior minister here in this cathedral of love and this temple of peace that we call our spiritual home. Here, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, whether you're a lifer here or you've just come here for the first time, no matter what you believe or what you don't believe in at all, no matter who you love or who you're loved by. All who are joy-filled, all who are filled with hope, all who are angry or fearful or come here with tears, all who have more questions than answers, have a place in the spiritual home where love and justice and inclusion and equity are part of our shared liberating faith. This morning, we are joined by my colleague, the Reverend Greta Joe, as she calls us to say yes to possibilities. I am eager and grateful for her charge to us this morning. Today, we are also grateful for Dolli Lutes, who will be joining us for a personal reflection. Our worship is also enhanced this morning with the generous gifts of music from our very own Robin, Connell, and friends. Thank you to each of them for drawing our community closer with one another through their gifts of music. As we gather this morning for worship, albeit virtually, may we be reminded of what a true gift it is to call this our community as we imagine the possibilities of this sacred gift with one another. This is Fountain Street Church. We are so glad you are with us this morning. Welcome home and welcome to worship.
We light these candles this morning as a sign and a symbol of our hopes and our dreams for this community. No matter how we gather, no matter where we are, may their light reach out and touch each of us. First, I light a candle in honor of peace. A candle for hope and compassion. A candle for justice. And a candle for community. We pray that each of these might be known in the hearts and felt and experienced in the lives of all within this community and beyond its walls.
When Greta Jo asked me to do this, I told her how much I hate public speaking. I think she was surprised by my vehemence. I considered not doing this because of my discomfort with public speaking, but I'm challenging myself as I will challenge you to bear some discomfort and be vulnerable to help build our beloved community. Beloved community is what I'm going to talk about today. I never had that terminology before Mariella. I thank her for that because it is very descriptive. I want to tell you about a beloved community I was part of here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The program was called Homeless Youth Services, and we worked with 16 through 19-year-olds whose families of origin were so dysfunctional that it was better that the teens were living independently. We had case managers who helped the teens find housing and jobs. The clients were a third white, a third black, a third Latinx, 2/3 female, 1/3 male, and about half the young women had babies. For 6.5 years, I was the coordinator of the mentor program, and I was tasked with matching the homeless teens with volunteers. Demographically, the volunteers were 25 through 60-year-olds, and almost all white and financially secure. Just take in those differences for a minute. Homeless teens, a third black, a third white, a third Latinx, and white volunteers, almost all financially secure. But this isn't a story about race, although in our US culture, the racial aspects of the story make the story even more significant and surprising. This story is about community and what it takes to build one. A part of community building is taking risks, doing things you haven't done before, doing things differently, being open-hearted, being vulnerable. And all of this means feeling some discomfort. My first discomfort was taking the job. A job I was not sure was doable, a job I might fail at. Surprising to many, I wasn't concerned about the racial aspects of matching the teens and mentors. I was concerned about adolescent development. Adolescents are more interested in contact with their peers than they are with contact with adults. And these teens had already experienced dysfunctional relationships with significant adults in their past. Would they be willing to take the risk again? One of the first risks for the volunteers was going through an intensive 24-hour active listening training. Learning to listen to the discomfort of other volunteers with empathy, learning to share their own discomfort, being vulnerable and open-hearted, learning from and with each other, practicing listening with each other in order to be ready to listen to the teens without judgment. We, the volunteers and I, created social recreational activities. These allowed the teens to get to know the volunteers. We also wanted the teens to have some fun and have new experiences. We went to bumper cars, we held holiday parties, graduation parties, participated in ropes challenge courses, went to Berlin raceways, baseball games, and many other things. Teens and volunteers met and got to know each other. Teen and volunteer matches were made, relationships were built, and community emerged. We all took risks, challenged ourselves, learned and grew. One of the biggest challenges for me came when the mentor program won the J.C. Penney Golden Rule Award. In addition to the award, there was a $1,000 cash prize. Being the kind of manager I am, I asked the volunteers what they thought we should do with the money. Their decision? An overnight retreat with the teens. With much trepidation and images of drugs, sex, and rock and roll, I said yes. Someone volunteered to plan and cook the meals. Someone else volunteered to plan activities. Everyone worked together, and a retreat was created. Personally, it was one of the least relaxing weekends of my life, even though there weren't any drugs, sex, and rock and roll, just my own stress and tension that it all work out okay. But the stress was worth it. My biggest takeaway from the weekend came with a conversation with a young woman. She said, "I was afraid to come here this weekend. I didn't think that all these different kinds of people could be together and not fight. But we did come together, and we didn't fight, and it was fun." So many stories, so much learning, so much risk-taking, doing things differently. One final vignette. An administrator who never trusted or understood volunteer programs attended one of our volunteer meetings to make an announcement. At break, in the middle of the meeting, she took me aside with a bit of a scowl on her face, shaking her head, looking at the volunteers sitting around and animatedly talking to each other. And she said, "Why are these people here instead of home?" I didn't have the terminology then. I just smiled and shrugged. If I'd had the terminology, I would have said, "They are creating beloved community, and it is good to be together." So why am I telling you this story from the 80s? What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with Fountain Street Church? I'm telling you this story because our beloved community of Fountain Street Church is at a very challenging time. And I think the Homeless Youth Volunteer Program has some possible lessons for us. So I invite you to think about how the lessons from the Mentor Program might apply to Fountain Street Church. Number one, the biggest lesson for me is that a community working together collaboratively can do amazing things. I believe this deeply. It is truth for me because I've experienced it. Number two, listening deeply to each other with respect makes all the difference. For most of us, this kind of listening takes learning a new skill, a skill we thought we already knew. Listening isn't just hearing words. This new kind of listening changes your world of relationships and is worth the hard work. Number three, we had to be willing to sit in our discomfort and not rush to solutions. Building the volunteer program took a long time. We had to do a lot of thinking and talking and building on each other's ideas. Number four, we had to do things differently. If we'd kept on doing things the old way, we would have gotten the same old results. If we had matched teens and mentors arbitrarily, I don't think the program would have worked. We had to find this new way for teens and mentors to come together. For us, it was the social recreational activities. Every group needs to find their special way, and these ways probably need to change over time. I also believe these ways to come together need to be motivated by mission. Number five, one of the reasons the volunteer program worked was that we had very little hierarchy. Volunteers were empowered to create. They had ideas. Other volunteers offered to help, and the group was energized. Number six, we were open-hearted with each other and ourselves. The word Mariella brought to me was vulnerability, and that's a very scary word. It means I'm open to hurt, but it also means I'm open to learning and love. The volunteer mentors and the teens practiced vulnerability and built a beloved community. And finally, is the discomfort worth it? My answer is always yes. It is good to be together in beloved community. Blessed be.
It has been a long year, dear ones. A year filled with saying no to a lot of things. Because of COVID, we'd had to say no to being together, no to physical connection, no to old ways of being. And because of a growing awareness and attention within our communities, we have been learning to say no to other things too. No to racism, no to sexism, no to systems that say anyone is less worthy or less loved. All that keeping up of boundaries, the learning to sit in discomfort of new ways and new learnings, it is exhausting. It is emotionally and physically draining, even spiritually draining, to stay so focused on what we do not want, on what we cannot do, on who we are not. So if you're finding yourself exhausted, even irritated or irritable by the constant drumbeat of talk about doing better, about fighting injustice, about reworking who and how we are, I want to remind you that this is not for nothing. That we are not here just to struggle against what we do not want. That we are also here to say yes. That we are working toward something. We are on a collective journey. We are traveling toward a horizon and inching ever closer to a dream. Some refer to that dream as liberation, collective liberation. It is often encapsulated with a quote from Emma Lazarus: "None of us are free until all of us are free." Or Lilia Watson: "My liberation is bound up in your liberation." But what does liberation look like? Or even more so, what does liberation feel like? One idea that attempts to hold those answers is that of beloved community. Capital B, capital C. If the phrase is familiar to you, it might be through the works and the writings of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was a cornerstone of his vision and of his legacy. It was a term that predates him, actually, coined at the cusp of the 20th century by American philosopher Josiah Royce. But King spoke of it as our ultimate goal. Quote, "The end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. This is the type of spirit, this is the type of love that can transform opponents into friends. It is this love which will bring about miracles in the hearts of men." Reconciliation, redemption, transformation, oh, and that big four-letter word, love. It's a lot. It's a lot crammed into two words. But Dr. King did not believe that the beloved community was just a lofty idea. Here is a quote from the King Center. "For Dr. King, the beloved community was not a lofty utopian goal, to be confused with the rapturous images of the peaceable kingdom in which the lions and the lambs coexist in daily harmony. Rather, the beloved community was for him a realistic, achievable goal that could be attained by a critical mass of people committed to and trained in the philosophy and methods of nonviolence." A realistic and achievable goal. But Dr. King was murdered for preaching those ideas, murdered in the midst of working to make that dream a reality. But the work of beloved community and its very real possibility did not die with him, just as it didn't begin with him. There is a call for resilience and resistance that comes out of Greek poetry by way of Mexican justice movements, and it echoes in my head. When they buried us, they did not know that we were seeds. And the seeds of beloved community, the seeds of liberation were planted long ago, and they are aching to grow, reaching for the sun, reaching for the possibility of germination. In truth, those seeds were not only planted long ago, but those seeds have sprouted. The beloved community and a liberated world is possible if we are willing to imagine it. Sometimes it's easier to imagine possibility in a fictional space, unconfined by the what ifs and what abouts of the naysayers that occupy reality. So I want to share with you an excerpt from author Starhawk in her book, The Fifth Sacred Thing. This excerpt is a conversation between Madrone, who knows what is possible, and the others who are still unsure if they believe. "What does the city look like?" Rocky asked, a little shyly. "There are lots of trees," Madrone said. "Trees everywhere and gardens, fruit trees and walnut trees and avocados wherever there's a sheltered spot. We grow a lot of our own food right in the city, and there's water everywhere. Not that we have a lot of it, but we conserve it carefully in cisterns and gray water tanks so we can reuse it, and in irrigation channels. But as much as possible, we let it flow freely in open streams that crisscross the pathways so that you can hear it and smell it and sit beside it, watching it play in the light." "And people don't steal it?" Baptist asked. "Nobody owns it, so nobody can steal it. And everybody has as much as they need because we all take care of it together." "But the poor people, what do they do?" There are no poor people. In our city, nobody is thirsty and nobody goes hungry. She knew that she was telling the truth, and yet her words began to sound unlikely. A fantasy tale of some mythical place she had invented herself, a dream too good to be true. "Keep telling us that," High John said abruptly. "People won't believe you, but that won't matter. It doesn't even matter if it's true or not. Just keep telling us that it is." "It is true," Madrone said. "It could be like that here. We know a lot about reclaiming dry lands. Rivers could run through valleys like they did long ago. People could have enough to eat and drink. Just let it be possible," High John said. "True is great, but possible is enough." True is great, but possible is enough. And possibility is here, my friends. It is right here with us. It is within reach. It was within our sight, within our knowing and our understanding. And it's showing up in our world, in pockets of possibility, giving us glimpses and helping us write the instruction manual to grow the garden more. But you don't have to take my word for it. I want to offer you an example, a real happening, not a fictional one, right here in our world. An example of liberation and belovedness transforming community. George Floyd Square in Minneapolis. Here's how reporter Samir Bardallis describes it. The cross of 4 blocks in South Minneapolis where Floyd was killed have been turned into a cop-free autonomous zone where people can gather and reflect during the murder trial of Derek Chauvin. The Black Lives Matter activists and their supporters, who have been there since last June, have set up barbecues and grills for community lunches, and people can take free books and clothes from various booths held together with rope and tape. They're trying to create a safe and inclusive space for the police reform movement in Minneapolis. And they're in it for the long haul. They plan to stay until the city implements their demands, like a seat at the table to discuss major changes to the Minneapolis Police Department, as well as permanently closing the intersection they are at in front of a store where Floyd was killed. You may have heard of George Floyd Square in the news as the site of protests or vigils or speeches over the last few weeks and months. But did you hear about the beautiful community of care that they've created? Did you know that it is also a place of free food, of clothing exchanges, of live music and community art, of being together? To be clear, there is still grief at the murder of George Floyd at the hands of 4 Minneapolis police officers. There is still anger at the ongoing search for justice and accountability. Grief and anger, weeping and wailing are present at George Floyd Square. But they are not all that is present. They are not keeping them from the dream, they are fueling it. Fueling their work, their hope, their devotion, their belief. Their belief that justice, that accountability, that liberation, belovedness, beloved community is possible. It is possible. They got to work. They created a beautiful, thriving, and connected pocket of possibility. A community where the vulnerability and the strength of grief are held by the vulnerability and the strength of belovedness. Again, from the same article in Vice. The zone is a stark contrast to the rest of the city, especially the downtown area, which has been covered in barbed wire and layers of high security barricades. Minneapolis spent $645,000 on the fencing to protect the courthouse where Chauvin's trial started on Tuesday, and the city's 5 police precincts. Thousands of National Guard troops have also been mobilized to patrol the city in the coming weeks. George Floyd Square wants to set a different tone. We have a very strong, loving community over here, said Square organizer Honey Jenkins, who said that she was a close family friend of George Floyd, considering him an uncle and a mentor. Before hate, it's love, she said. We're getting all hell out of here. We're getting all hell out of here. On the day of the verdict in the Chauvin case that was announced, there was an interfaith rally at George Floyd Square. And Miss Marcia Howard, a teacher, the teacher of the girl who filmed George Floyd's murder, gave an impassioned speech. And she started with a familiar chant. Tell them what community looks like. And the gathered crowd, the gathered congregation responded, this is what community looks like. Show them what community looks like. This is what community looks like. It looks like us, she cried. It looks like us. Later, she goes on to say, I gotta tell you that Black liberation is gonna liberate everybody, because this movement is gonna move all of us, because we ain't free till we all are free. She could picture it. She was saying, yes, Miss Marcia and other organizers in Minneapolis know that liberation is possible. They can imagine what it looks like, and they are working to know what it feels like. So my friends, I know that we are tired of saying no, but when we struggle to stay true to what we believe, we are also saying yes. Yes to beloved community. Saying no, we will not spend time together, is really saying yes because we believe in saving the lives of our community and honoring our interconnectedness. No, we will not participate in perpetuating racism or sexism or transphobia or xenophobia. Because yes, we believe in a world where everyone is not only welcomed, but loved for all of who they are. No, we will not abide in justice. Because yes, we believe that liberation is possible. Saying yes to connection. Saying yes to co-creating beloved community. So if you are tired of saying no, I invite you to choose yes. To choose to believe that this beloved community is more than a dream, that it is possible. To say yes to being part of building it, of making a dream a reality, of building your own small pockets of possibility. Because every pocket is one more moment in the movement towards collective liberation. Every pocket is one more moment in the movement towards collective liberation. So don't get me wrong, it will take work, it will be hard, it will be uncomfortable, we will get tired. Dolli gave us some examples of what that looked like, both the hard and the holy of it. But I invite you to say yes to listening to the stories all around us that teach us what liberation looks like. Because it will take each and every one of us saying yes, each and every one of us creating pockets of possibility in our lives, in our communities, to move us toward the world that we dream of. So what about here at Fountain Street Church? What is it that we are working for? What does liberation look like? How is the beloved community realized here? I don't have all the answers. I don't even know a lot of the specifics. But there is one thing I know about the dream of beloved community. Yes, we must listen truly and deeply to what others can teach us as they offer their wisdom, share their imagining, impart their hopes, and we must make it our own. Because the beloved community will not be built until each of us can dream it, until each of us can imagine that it is possible. That is what it will take to, again, quote King, an achievable goal that can be met by a critical mass of people. We must each be part of that critical mass. We must each believe in the possible, know in the depths of our bones that we can build a liberated world before we can work for it. We must believe in the possibility of enough before the truth can be within reach. Do you believe? Can you imagine it? What will it take for you to dream bigger? For you to believe deeper? Are you ready to say yes? So that we can work to make it possible together? So that we can bless that world into being. Let's say yes.
We are indeed imagining the possibilities here at Fountain Street Church. We are indeed actively imagining what it might look like, what it might feel like, what it might be like to actively embody beloved community with one another. And we are indeed imagining the ways in which this embodiment might be a reality beyond the walls of this cathedral of love and this temple of peace. One of the ways in which we practice the opening of ourselves to the possibilities is through the weekly collection of our offerings. When we offer just a little bit more of ourselves, just a little more of our personal resources that go to the collective whole, when we trust in the possibilities and surrender to what could be, we bring ourselves and this community just that much closer to embodying that kind of beloved community that the world so desperately needs us to be. And so this offering is about more than just money or dollars and cents. It's a spiritual practice inviting us to take this step closer to being beloved community. So with the spirit of this love and this generosity and this sharing with one another, the offering will now most graciously be received.
I'm old-fashioned. I love the moonlight. I love the old-fashioned things. Like the sound of rain upon my window pane. The starry songs that April sings. Well, this year's fancies may turn out to be passing fancies. But sighing sighs and holding hands, these my heart understands. I'm old-fashioned, but I don't mind it. For that's how I'll always be, as long as you agree to stay old-fashioned with me.
Beloveds, thank you for choosing to be here with us today, for choosing to be in community across the miles, across time, across technology. I am grateful for the technology that allows us to be together today. Before we part ways, I want to share a couple of other ways that we can be in community in the coming week. First of all, immediately following this service, I invite you to join us on Zoom for our time of chatting and connection and small group discussion. You can find the link to join on our website, in the emails, or you can message us on social media and we'll be happy to get you connected. Later this week, the Duncan Littlefair Great Speaker Series presents Barry Johnson and To See is to Love, addressing racism without blaming or condoning. It will be premiering on our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. on May 6th, and it will also be followed by a Zoom Q&A. If you'd like to join for the Zoom Q&A, you can go onto our website and register to get that link. Also on Wednesday nights, always, we have the grounding, a time of worship, of reverence, of chatting and connection, and we invite you to join us. I want to send you out today with another's words, another's wisdom and envisioning of what can be. This is an excerpt of a poem from Rebecca Parker. I give it to you as a blessing for your week. Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward in the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil that moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that is which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude, to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community. The endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith. The life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, and the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility. Waiting. Choose to bless the world, my friends, until we're together again.
Thank you.